Let's podcast. Eford Studios, downtown Raleigh, Empire Properties, alongside Joe Giglio. I'm Joe OVIES. You're back.
I am. Back in North Carolina. I kind of feel like I'm itchy for some reason.
Oh boy,
like I
what?
sat at home.
What?
And I looked at the NBA Summer League scoreboard yesterday when I got home, and I was like, something missing. I'm cold. I've got shivers. And then I started sweating. I don't know what it was, though. I couldn't quite put my finger on it.
Could it be that you spent the entire trip on FanDuel?
No, it can't be that.
It can't be that. All right. So at what point did you? All right. So when you road trip, are you the driver or is Jessica the driver?
Yes, I drive.
Okay. I'm in the same boat. I do the majority of the driving. However, when you hit Virginia, did you tell Jessica, hey, or did you tell James, hey, can you drive? I'm going to be in the passenger seat because I'm now in the land of the gambling. And I can start making picks now on the drive.
All right, so I'm slightly embarrassed. No, I drove the whole time.
You drove the whole time?
Yeah,
okay.
Because, well, here's the reason. If James drives, which he's a perfectly capable driver,
sure,
my wife basically won't let him speed.
Oh, forget it.
Okay, so now you can't make any time without. And when I say speed, I don't mean like 85, but I mean like 80 in a 70, right? So she won't let him do that.
So you're stuck at 70.
Right. So I'm like, no, we're not doing that.
No.
And then love my wife, obviously, but
Jessica's a wonderful person.
She is a very conservative driver herself.
Oh, okay.
She also has this very bad habit of passing on the right, which drives me insane. So you'd have to give me.
That's not very conservative.
You'd have to knock me out in the back seat, which has been done before.
Yeah.
Okay. Jackson has his permit. Our niece Jana has a license as well. But again, Jackson's not going to be allowed to speed, right? All for perfectly normal parental reasons, even before their own accident, right? So not even post-accident, it's like, oh, you better be. She's got that Life 360 app on their phone, and that thing will go crazy if they go over 70. So I drive, which is fine.
Sure.
The traffic up was stupid, ridiculous. I don't know how the people in the DC and Virginia area do it. Our friend Patrick Stevens in Baltimore, I don't know how they do it.
Just means more time to listen to podcasts while you're stuck in traffic.
It absolutely is, because the traffic up there was just stupid.
Yeah.
Okay. But I'm slightly embarrassed because I said to Jessica, I said, I think maybe on the way back, we'll stop in Danville. You know, they have the new casino there, the sports book there.
Which is basically like a trailer park.
Yeah, it's a trailer park. It's in a parking lot. Yeah. And I was like, maybe that's what we'll do, because I'll place some bets for the British Open next week. If you're unfamiliar with my gambling journey, Golf Joe is pretty good.
It's a journey now?
It's a journey.
Okay.
Golf Joe's pretty good.
All right.
The other gambling parts of Joe, not good.
All right.
Not good at all. Okay. Not good at all. So there's a battle that goes on within. But then I get to, the traffic actually started. The DC traffic, the Richmond DC traffic started in North Carolina. I've been making this drive for 30 years. It's the first time I've seen on a Saturday that I've seen the traffic, and there was no construction. There was no accidents. It was all volume. Okay.
Because when I went up to Richmond, because I had to go up through Richmond before getting on to Charlottesville up until Shenandoah Valley, we didn't deal with any traffic post Richmond. That's
so much traffic. Okay.
Interesting.
I actually texted G4, the group, the Garner Golf Gambling group, and I said, no, stupid question. I said, I don't actually have to go to Danville, do I? I can just do this on my phone.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, yeah. So I didn't do any shopping. I didn't look around. I knew FanDuel, trusted FanDuel.
Yeah, they're available.
Hello, FanDuel.
Soon. Future sponsorships.
Come on, FanDuel.
Let's go.
This all could be yours. Put it on my shirt. Put it on my glasses.
Look at our empire.
I'll get a tattoo if you want. My voice is cracking over here. Hi. Love you, mean it. So I download FanDuel, and then they had a $200 bonus for
first sign up.
Yeah. Basically,
it's
is how it
customer
worked out.
acquisition. Right. Right.
So I unlike you, I've never had a FanDuel account because I was like, I'm not. The daily fantasy to me is like there's a little bit of like a masturbatory exercise with that. So I'm like, I ain't doing that.
With you on that. But again, quick context here. So when daily fantasy blew up,
yes,
both FanDuel and DraftKings came into the market.
The great advertising wars of 12 or whatever that was.
Because we're free of corporate structure, I can kind of give away the game, and this actually helps inform how things are going to be once this starts going live. As a company, both radio places that I worked at always sold on exclusivity.
Yeah.
And to a certain extent, we're doing the same thing here on the podcast. So if you're an interested advertiser looking at you and you want to email us at theoggoesdigital@gmail.com, the whole thing is exclusivity. You are the person that we are going to talk about. And ideally, as we have with our advertisers, these are all people that we have relationships with and we use. We'll get to the butcher's market in a second. Regardless. So we always sold exclusivity until DraftKings and FanDuel. One came first, and I was doing FanDuel first. All right. But then because DraftKings is like, yeah, you don't understand. We don't care that you already are advertising FanDuel.
Right.
We still want to give you our money, so make it work.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly what they did. So Gold started doing DraftKings, and we just had to make sure that the ads were like separate enough in the show. So
you did like one each hour.
Right. So that's how much money they have. That's what they're willing to spend. And that's why they're willing to give you $200 free just to get going.
So I signed up.
Yeah.
And I to place a golf bet on Denny McCarthy.
Mm-hmm. This is for the Scottish Open?
No.
Or for the British Open?
No, this was John Deere.
This was
John Deere. This was the first Saturday.
Okay.
So I got decent odds. He was the favorite, but I did get decent odds on him, thinking he was going to win. Denny McCarthy is from Virginia, played at Virginia. He's a good par 70. He's a good ball striker, unbelievable ball striker. He's had a good year. He's never won on the PGA Tour before. So John Deere is one of those events where not all the big boys show up.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a chance for someone like McCarthy to pick up their first PGA Tour win. So I put money on McCarthy. And then... But I didn't put it all on McCarthy because I was like, So then that's where the $200 bonus comes in. So now, when I tell you that I was betting on WNBA totals, I was betting on WNBA totals.
Are you okay? Did you make money off the totals?
See, again,
oh no,
the live line is very dangerous.
You don't know. I was going to say, what do you know about the WNBA?
Nothing.
Right.
It's purely based on how many points were scored in the previous quarter. I like to bet on the quarters as well.
That. Right.
So if a team's getting crushed, I usually take the underdog on the live line in the quarter, which can be good, can be bad. I bet on the UFC. I bet on tennis, lots of tennis.
Did you bet on this guy who just beat Djokovic?
I did. I had an Alcaraz. So I had an Alcaraz future. I actually had two Alcaraz futures tickets, plus 360, plus 390.
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up, for the whole trip, I had an Alcaraz ticket on my account. So
on your account.
On my account. Because then when I got
that means you had multiple accounts.
Because then when I got to New Jersey, we stopped, we saw Aileen. And when I got to New Jersey, I said to my wife, I said, let me see your phone. Actually, I said to James first. So I said, let me see your phone. And he was like, what are you going to do? I was like, well, and I sent him, because there was the buddy bonus.
Hold on.
Like when you sign up.
Did you sign up your whole family?
I was going to, but you have to be 21. I thought it was 18.
No, it's 21.
It's 21. So I signed the boss's account. So in her account, I had Rory McIlroy to win the Scottish. So her account's got money. And plus she got the bonus and all those other things.
Okay.
Then I got a bonus for signing her up. Right? Because it's a pyramid scam. So long story short, after betting on a menagerie of events, I ended up winning the Alcaraz tickets. She had a McIlroy ticket. So now the big question is, I think it's an hour from my house to the Virginia border.
It is, yeah.
So, and she has a Hovland ticket now on her account.
So you can't cash out while you're here.
Cannot. You can't even open it up.
Oh, because
it does not tell you. It does not tell you what active bets you have. The only thing I could do on my FanDuel account would be some sort of fantasy.
I mean,
if I could sign up for some sort of fantasy thing.
You can set up a VPN to.
Well, I was going to talk to you about that potentially.
You could set up a VPN.
Maybe not on admitting that on the air right now, but
whatever.
Here's the thing. It's an hour. So now that's my big conundrum now. So she has a Hovland ticket for the British Open, which is good. I do believe Victor Hovland's going to win the British Open.
Okay.
But the rest of that money is just kind of burning a hole in my pocket right now. So I'm like, what can I do with it? Because I had our guy Grayson Murray to win the Barbasol Championship too.
I'm worried about
you. He was so close.
I'm worried about you when it finally goes live in this state.
Yeah.
How many are you going to start going, like, getting track phones, fake emails?
No, because I had to give them. You have to use your social security number.
Oh, okay.
They identify you. That's how they identify you.
Well,
like the phone is one way of identifying.
I mean, if you really get desperate, you can go on the dark web and buy some social security numbers.
I mean, it's still real money.
Yeah,
but to your point, you can goose that $200 bonus. MGM had a bunch of them too. Like when I was in New Jersey, I was like, man, I should have really shopped this stuff around.
You were so desperate in Virginia. You're like, I need to do it right now.
One of them had like a $2,000 bonus, and I you was like,
whoa, okay.
But it might have been a match. It might have been like one of those. If you bet,
did you drive through DC?
Oh yeah.
So you didn't go to the MGM right there on the river?
No,
because that thing looks palatial.
Somebody was like, somebody said something about Danville. One of our listeners was saying that Danville, he was disappointed when he went to Danville that it wasn't like, oh, you go to the counter like you're in Vegas, the whole thing. No, he just meant like the actual process.
Oh, yeah.
That it was basically, and I think people are going to have to square this when it gets here in January.
Yeah.
It's a kiosk. Like it's not like these, romantic notions of the Rat Pack and Sammy and Frank are going to be in the background playing and escorting you there with your ticket. So, it really is just going to be digital, which is what got me back to the phone going, okay, I don't need to go to Danville. I can just be in the state of Virginia.
You don't. And that's obviously geared towards the younger audience that they're trying to monetize. That's who they're trying to bring into
just like all of us.
Just like everything else. Everybody's chasing that Gen Z and the next gen coming up. But Gen Z being the biggest one when they start, when they're 18 and those who are approaching 18.
I can tell my
21.
FanDuel account does not know me though.
Yeah.
Because the very first thing is like, here's a popular single game parlay.
Yeah,
that's like,
you're not going to do that.
Listen,
that's not you.
That's for the youths.
Yeah, it is for the youths.
We're going to lose our money on WNBA totals like a proper generation.
But to your point, the last point we'll make on the gambling part here is, PNC Arena is still going through this song and dance about their renovation, their upcoming renovation. And I know the News and Observer recently had an update on one of these meetings. I guess they have another meeting that's scheduled for August. They're really trying to figure out, all right, who's the designer, who we're going to use, what are we going to prioritize, right? And how much money is it going to cost, and where are we taking that money from? But the main priority is completely redoing. And we'll talk to Philip Isley at some point here soon as we get closer to that date. He's the chair of the Centennial Authority, and he's the one kind of driving to get everybody on the same page. Yes. So Isley's a good dude. He's talked to us in the past, and we're overdue for an update. But the biggest thing that they're trying to do at PNC Arena is to change the entrance. They want like a what was described as a grand entrance. And the reason why they want that grand entrance is to create a sports lounge. I think I saw the number of 4,000 square feet lounge, along with a terrace view, a second floor bar that looks over the big terrace, looks over Carter Finley Stadium. They want you hanging out on your phone making bets. That's what they want. That's the new era of the lounge.
And we talked to Tom Dundon about this and how he doesn't want to half-ass this thing. So it might be you see something where it really is a kiosk or a phone for this first initial run. Yeah. But he really wants to set that thing up and do it the right way, which probably means the start of the 24-25 season.
Housekeeping. So Giglio is back. We're whole again. We're going to be at ACC kickoff in a week. That is next week in Charlotte. I'm very excited about this. 3 days of ACC kickoff extravaganza.
That's a lot.
It'll be fine. It'll be fine. You got a place to stay, by the way?
I do.
Okay, because we're doing this completely.
Shout out to Jamie Giglio.
We're doing this completely on the cheap. Shout out to Nada because I'll be crashing at his house. Maybe I'll bring Nada some Butcher's Market. I went to Butcher's Market. Was it? Yes. No, Saturday. I went to Butcher's Market Saturday. Went to the home base. They're off of Falls in the Noose and Millbrook. I got the steak and cheese. I got the signature steak tips to take home and grill. Probably put those on the grill Tuesday. My new favorite which is the charred jalapeno and garlic chicken.
Yeah, I told you that jalapeno. It's not hot.
It's not
it
hot.
It just has a nice flavor.
Yes, and it's perfect for fajitas. Absolutely perfect for fajitas. So I highly recommend that. And got some mac and cheese. They even have prepared foods. Like we got these meatballs, these chicken meatballs that we're going to make subs out of. So it's all really, really good. But I finally had the steak and cheese again. I hadn't had it in a while. And, oh, man, it hits. It hits so good.
The next thing we need to do is have the French fries, apparently. Everyone says the French fries.
Well, they had the chili cheese fries on a special, but I had the fries with the steak and cheese. And they put the seasoning on the fries. Absolutely delicious. Absolutely
Nothing
delicious.
I enjoy more than when people tweet at us discovering. No, seriously.
No,
it means a lot. It really does mean a lot. So I appreciate all the people who have gone and discovered the steak and cheese. Look, we're not going to lie to you on this program. Okay. These are all things we go and do. Butcher's Market, Raleigh, Cary, Holly Springs. Check them out. It's thebutchersmarkets.com.
Also, shout out to Breeze Through. It is Open Week, British Open Week. Our guy Adam is very excited about this. And early morning golf means what, Joe? It's time to pour that coffee early. What do they got?
Look at this. This is a deal right here. This is the lifetime free refills. Okay. This is a legit tumbler, first of all. Cold drinks, soda fountain, whatever you want. Coffee. Okay. Get the dark roast. Really good stuff. $20. This is $20. But very soon, we're going to be giving these away because all we're working on right now is getting the logo on our logo on the back. Once we have that, Adam has secured for us 5 tumblers to give away. How are we going to give those away, Joe?
We're bringing back the mixtape.
Yes, we are.
Bringing back the mixtape. I already have 4 songs in the can in a very special way. This week, we'll be getting another round of songs in the can. You're like, well, how's this going to work? I'm like, look, there are some copyright issues that we have to work through.
Yeah.
Because while I think we've unlocked certain things on YouTube where I can use licensed music, not necessarily the case for podcast. This is called a mechanical license, kids. Regardless, we found a way around it, and we're going to bring back the mixtape. And you want to bring listeners on.
I do.
You are convinced.
It's the only way to do it.
You are convinced we can get listeners.
Yeah. All right. We got people going to the Butcher's Market and tweeting at us. We can get somebody to come on to win one of these. Are you kidding?
All right. We'll make it happen.
Because not only is it's not going to be decorative, it's useful.
It is absolutely useful. Absolutely useful.
Move on.
You've heard the term wine and cheese in relation to North Carolina, right?
Yeah, of course.
I feel like you and I being of a certain age, when you hear wine and cheese, it's the same thing of like, oh, they've said moo you for NC State.
Sure.
You know, like, so an NC State fan will say something about wine and cheese in the crowd at the Smith Center. Carolina fan in turn will say something about moo you, farmers, blah, 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 blah. And you get in this endless cycle of tired smack talk. You'd think by now we would evolve. We would evolve. But apparently not. Apparently wine and cheese has staying power. And I am low-key impressed by the fact that the next generation coming up has stuck with this. You're probably wondering what the heck is going on here. So there was I'm going to have to go ahead and find it on my social media feed here in a second so I can bring you the video. But the point here is that the wine and cheese knock that has been making the rounds for a long time made an appearance this week when Providence Day, a UNC commit, Jordan Shipp, announced, right, I'm going to UNC. His teammate, Brody Barnhart, who's going to NC State, was at this announcement or at this function that was taking place. So, and if you're watching on YouTube, you'll see this pull up here in a second. So they're in the gym, they're all excited, and then here comes Brody with with a package. And this is from Deanna King at NC Preps. This is where this video shows up. And here's the
Something handy for Jordan while he's at UNC. Right here with him. Yes, sir. He's ready now.
Big wine and cheese. Big wine and cheese.
Hey, look up.
Big wine and
So Brody's holding up the Wolfpack sign while his teammates holding up the wine and cheese. As our guy Daciel Fire pointed out on Twitter, the only thing that would have made that better if it was Duplin wine, some sort of pink Moscato while he's holding up with the wine and cheese. Are you like low-key impressed? As tired as that joke can be, are you low-key impressed that there's another generation coming up that's bringing back wine and cheese?
I'm impressed. We haven't lost our minds that high schoolers were touching alcohol. That's progress in the state of North Carolina. Not that I've looked through the comments on Dina's post, but I'm sure there's probably I can't believe these high school kids. Stop.
It's unopened. It's a prop.
That's
It's
number
unopened.
one.
Yeah.
Number two, no, this is what the triangle is about.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, because someone was like, well, what should, I think it was Mark Armstrong was like, well, what should, Jordan get Brody? And I'm like, an empty box. Because you're not going to win a ring in NC State. Like, you got to be a little bit more creative than cows and moos.
A pair of overalls.
That's fine.
That
too,
would be fine.
but, you got
the overalls are back.
The whole point of us being here in these Herb Sendek day tight compartments is the needle.
Yeah.
That's what this is all about, man. So yes, love that this next generation has that, and looking forward to both of them, and hopefully we'll see them play in the ACC at their respective schools.
So you're probably wondering where the heck did wine and cheese come from? It's the gift that keeps on giving from Florida State basketball player, longtime pro, now coach in the NBA.
The alien, Sam Cassell.
So this was back in 1991. Florida State had just joined the ACC as a full-time member. And I believe it was Florida State's first trip to Chapel Hill.
Yeah.
And Sam
epic comeback.
Yeah. So Sam Cassell, it was after the game. Andrew Carter of the News and Observer did a retrospective on the 25th anniversary of the quote, or supposedly when the quote was said. And apparently the only person that ended up getting the quote, I mean, there's no audio of it anywhere, was the old columnist for the News and Observer. Was it Mickey McCarthy, I believe? Mickey McCarthy was the columnist at the time. It's like the name escaped me there for a second. So supposedly he was the only one who got that quote, or he was the one that raised an eyebrow when the quote was said while everybody else was kind of moving on to the same thing. It gets put in the paper and then it takes on a life of its own. And when I first moved here in 1995 and I was hearing the whole wine and cheese thing, I mean, it was heavy use of wine and cheese crowd. And I just never really knew the origin of it, but it made sense, I guess. And the whole reason why Sam Cassell said it was because the Smith Center, there's a long-standing issue at the Smith Center for basketball games.
I was going to say, it changed, though.
It has changed a little bit, where all the alum were at the bottom, in the bottom bowl, right there on the court. And alumni are a little older, richer, not making a lot of noise, whereas the students were all in the second section in the upper deck making all the noise. So that's where wine and cheese was made. And Sam Cassell said, yeah, I don't want to play at Cameron. That's terrible. Like that's a rowdy place. This place, I'm good with it.
So of course there was a snowstorm in the brief Matt Doherty tenure.
Never forget.
Which the Smith Center, they let the students sit in the end zone next to behind the Carolina bench, near the Carolina bench. And that, ever since then, they've moved a portion of the students to the floor, to that section. And I do think it has improved the crowd at the Smith Center. I will say that the Duke Carolina game I covered in 2018 is the loudest building I've ever been in. That includes all hockey games.
All hockey games?
That includes all hockey games I've ever covered.
Yeah, the reason why I kind of sat there and looked at you for a second, I'm like, are you being for real right now?
No, I am. I could not hear. I was at that point where they moved the media up. I couldn't hear Luke next to me. I was sitting next to Luke. I couldn't even hear what he was trying to tell me next to me. It was so loud in there, and it was all organic noise.
Sure.
And that's my problem with hockey, with the arena specifically, with PNC Arena.
The audio gets jacked.
You know me. You know I got that old man thing going. I sat in, what was it, 306, and I came back and I told you, do you know what the best part of this whole experience was? And I'm like, not the extra room. I was above the speakers, so I was like, this is glorious. So to me, and that's not to say I've never been in NC State when it's loud. It's not to say, I'm just telling you, in that building that day in 2018, that's the loudest arena I've ever been in, and with crowd noise, and the place was going berserk.
It's a long-standing knock on the Smith Center, and it's the way that it's built with the big giant air dome. It's basically just a canvas top when all the noise escapes through the top of that. And for a while there, it became such a knock that there was a mini scandal where the radio broadcast was actually piping in fake crowd noise. And of course, NC State fans never let that go. Never let that go. Which then gets me to a central question. So I was doing a Google search last night, trying to see if I could find the audio of Sam Cassell saying originally cheese and wine.
Cheese and wine.
He said cheese and wine first, and eventually became wine and cheese. So I'm looking for this, and I got back a hit, 1991 FSU at UNC. I'm like, oh, okay, maybe this is it. Actually, no. It's an eBay listing for something that was ultimately sold. I don't even know where, if I can pull it up here real quick. So yes, it sold for $9.99. It's a game used ticket stub from 1991 when Sam, and it's listed as this on eBay. 1991 FSU at UNC basketball game ticket, Sam Cassell wine and cheese. So whoever put it up on eBay clearly knew that there was a State fan out there. There's got to be a sucker out here that would absolutely use this for a conversation starter with his State friends, so that they have like, hey, look what I have. This is when the thing was born. Thanks to Sam Cassell.
Only $10. I'm slightly surprised.
It's a total steal. Yeah. Total steal on this. It's no longer available. Apparently, it was sold back on April 28th of this year for $10.
We would have bought that.
Yeah, I would actually put it on my bulletin board back here. Speaking of rivalries, the NC State Carolina rivalry is its own thing, but it looks like we're going to continue getting our Eric Holla Carolina Hurricanes rivalry for the foreseeable future. I'm pretty sure that Holla.
Yeah, I hate that he re-signed with the Devils because I was looking forward to knowing who the Canes were going to eliminate from the playoffs next year.
Well, it'll continue to be the Devils, will it not?
Yeah, it has to be. Right?
I mean, that's not necessarily a bad thing. So there was an image making the rounds yesterday where Eric Holla was on the golf course with somebody. I don't know who the teammate is. And he tags Eric Holla, and shout out to Kane Stats on Twitter who had yanked this image. And if you look at, and he's got this bracelet on. Eric Holla's got this bracelet on. But if you zoom and enhance, like I will do here on the Twitter machines, you will see that the bracelet apparently says Canes suck. Joe, do you think that's real?
I do not.
I do not think it's real either. But that has not stopped people from going online and dunking on Eric Holla, including our friend Kane Stats Brand, by pointing out, yes, when you're 1-14 in the building since you've been shipped off. So it's funny. A lot of people have been going on about rent-free from Eric Holla to the Carolina Hurricanes. I almost feel like there's a little bit of the inverse here where there are Canes fans who clearly direct their ire towards Holla and look for reasons to not like him, including in the playoffs. Now,
yeah, it was Nashville the first year he was gone, then Boston.
Yes.
And then this year, New Jersey.
Yeah.
It's kind of remarkable if you think about it.
It is remarkable in the grand scheme of things. It really is.
There's like a Buffalo Bills vibe to that.
The funny thing is, it wasn't a good fit. That's the best thing you'll hear about Eric Holla and the Carolina Hurricanes and this whole Rod Brindamore culture rebrand of the Carolina Hurricanes. Holla has been viewed as the one guy who didn't get it, quote unquote. And he's a pest, and he's this focal point during the playoffs or when they play in the regular season. It's whatever. The details as to why he's not this fit for the Carolina Hurricanes, it depends on who you ask. But most people go, it was bad. It wasn't good. It didn't vibe with the room. Okay, cool. Move on. We've moved on. Much like I think
moving on.
Much like some Canes fans are going to have to move on with some of the rumors that have been making around the last couple of weeks, right? I was at a junior Canes.
This is good or bad?
No, I mean, I would say it's more of like, if it hasn't happened by now, it might not just happen.
Okay.
So, and there's multiple reasons as to why things may or may not have happened. So I was like at a junior Canes event yesterday for Jacob, and their conversation about the Canes offseason came up, right? And we've seen how many permutations of the Tony DeAngelo back to the Canes. First, it was they were going to flip him from the Philadelphia Flyers for, they're going to retain his salary. They're going to get him for a steal again. And then that went away. I mean, Adam kept talking about it's going to happen. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. Next thing you know, I see that the Philadelphia Flyers have bought out Tony DeAngelo.
They did.
Unconditional waivers, bought him out. Wow. Walk away. All right. No, it's just done. So I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I guess if the Canes wanted to pick him up for another $1 million, so be it. He's there. Tony DeAngelo at this point would be a luxury for the Carolina Hurricanes. You would absolutely appreciate his offensive prowess on the power play, which is something that the Canes are lacking, but he's not necessary for what the Carolina Hurricanes
like the first time around.
No,
when they needed him to replace Dougie Hamilton.
Bingo. All right. So I find the odd obsession with Tony DeAngelo mostly an online creation where people are still trying to hash out whether it was a good or bad decision for the Carolina Hurricanes to bring on Tony DeAngelo and whether or not lightning can strike twice. You and I talked about this ad nauseum that season. It absolutely paid off. Whatever you think of Tony DeAngelo is immaterial to the point. It paid off.
Listen, we are not on the same end of the political spectrum as Tony DeAngelo.
No.
That doesn't mean you can't appreciate what he did when he was here, because he didn't say a word when he was here.
No. Look, I said
Like
this.
he didn't pop off once. He wasn't like, oh, these Hicks or whatever else he might have said. I don't know.
When I was on vacation, I know that the Rod Brindamore Hall of Fame discussion came up again, and he's not in the Hall of Fame. And at this point, I'm very much the only reason at this point you can make the argument that Rod Brindamore belongs in the Hall of Fame because he's the only coach in NHL history to get any productivity out of a guy who multiple organizations have gone, hey, buddy, thanks, but out you go. He's been bought out by 2 teams. That's like an NHL record.
Not just any 2 teams.
Yeah.
The Rangers and the Phillies.
And the Flyers, right? 2 towns that should be able to deal with a guy like Tony DeAngelo.
Where he's from,
he went home,
by the way.
He went home to Philly. And yet, these organizations have said, thanks, but no thanks. So really, Rod Brindamore should be in the Hall of Fame because he's the only guy who's ever gotten any productivity out of Tony DeAngelo. And they might be able to do it again, which gets us to the other points of obsession this offseason in Vladimir Tarasenko, who they did not acquire at the trade deadline. The Rangers ended up getting him, and now he's looking to secure the bag. And there was a change in agents representation, which would tell you that if there was something going on with the Carolina Hurricanes, he was taking a bargain deal. He did not like that, and now they're trying to go back to the market and get a better deal. Now, I was talking to Luke DeCock about this the other day, and he makes a very excellent point. If it's about money, well, then you don't want Tarasenko at this point. You don't want him at this point because you would probably want Tarasenko when he's looking for that next contract after the trade deadline rather than somebody who has secured the bag. So he'd be a luxury at this point too, which then also gets us to the Erik Karlsson rumors. Brentford's his old teammate with the Sharks, etc. Again, I feel like that's also a bit of a luxury, but I also think it's related to Brett Pesce's contract.
Yes.
Most importantly. And then I think
Speaking of new agents,
and actually, I think the most underreported story the deal that actually makes it's more important than all these other ancillary things that are going on right now. Where's the Sebastian Aho deal? All right. When the season ended and we talked to Rod Brindamore and we talked to Tom Dundon specifically, or when we talked to Don Waddell, the president and general manager of the Carolina Hurricanes, when the last time we talked to him was when gambling went ahead and passed through the state house and got signed into law. What have they all said?
it's going to get done.
It's July 17th.
Yeah, but July 17th.
Where are we at?
Relatively early in the actual offseason calendar, especially for something like this. I suspect this is not something you'll see announced until near opening night.
All right.
That would be my guess.
I feel like if it's an important thing for you and you have to understand what's your cap situation going to be.
Right.
Because that's the other thing that has to get knocked out. If you have moves pending, well, then you need to make the Aho deal happen now. That's why the Jordan Staal deal was important when they made that announcement. Under 35.
Different, though, because Jordan was an unrestricted free agent.
Totally get that.
Yeah.
I totally get that.
This is a guy you have control over because of the contract. This is a guy you had a contentious negotiation with last time. Now, Tom says that's not going to be an issue. Maybe Sebastian's camp has other thoughts. It doesn't mean that contentious just means you want to get your absolute peak value. That is where Sebastian Aho is. That's the point he is at in his career. This is not a bargain deal. This is not, this is a building block of your franchise that you now need to step up and take care of, and you're going to have to pay him more. And the premise of getting the deal done this year is that you can get a better deal than you would if he hits the open market. But you have to understand that.
Yeah. I just feel like all the moves that everybody's kind of obsessing over right now online, let's get the Aho deal done first. That way you have a better idea of what your cap situation is going to look like going forward. I also think the Brett Pesce negotiations also factor into what's going on here.
Yeah, I don't love Brett Pesce's chances of being on the Carolina Hurricanes.
I'm with you
at the
on
start
that.
of the year.
I'm with you on that.
I think that's where Orlov's deal came in.
I'm with you on that as well.
Next topic, please.
Big shouts to Oak City Sports Cards, downtown Raleigh. Are we going to Oak City this week to pick up some cards for
Yes,
kickoff?
I have been communicating with Weston on the break, making sure we can get some football cards. I even said, like, hey, man, if you have some 87 Topps wax packs laying around somewhere, baseball, I said, I think the coaches of our generation would get a pretty good kick out of those. The old wood paneling background, the rated rookie, not rated rookie, but superstar rookies. And
well, it didn't have, I thought
the Topps
not rated
all-star
rookie
cup.
Yes, it had the cup. That's the one I'm thinking about.
Yes.
I remember the 87
Donruss was rated rookie, so yeah. But 87 did have the Topps rookie team.
That's the one.
Yes. So there's different cards. There's some different options. That's just for us having fun. But if for real you want to get the best value for your cards, go check out Weston for real. Off of Glenwood Avenue, they have such a great spot downtown. You can get all kinds of cards, you name it. But if you want the best value for your cards that you have in your possession, bring them to Weston. He'll help you get them graded. He'll get you the best value for those cards. OakCityCards.com.
Also, shout out to Mosquito Authority and Pest Authority. We are in the grossest part of the summer right now, which means mosquitoes are probably at their most active, but you can keep that at bay thanks to Mosquito Authority. I know it's been working in my yard. We talked about grilling out, those types of things. It's possible this time of the year, thanks to Mosquito Authority. And also, as it gets hot, you got little varmints trying to get in your house because that's where the air conditioner is going, like ants, roaches, all that stuff. That's where Pest Authority comes into play.
The ants are taking over my house. Just taking over. First thing I did when I came back, gave Hayes Lancaster, Mosquito Authority, Pest Authority a call. You can do the same thing. Give them a shout or check them out at No Mosquito NC. That's on the Twitters and bugsbite.com.
It's a big week for soccer, Joe.
It is. I feel like we need intern Cal to explain to us what.
Intern Cal will be here on Thursday.
Okay.
To explain some soccer things. We're also
because we care about Wrexham because of Ryan Reynolds, or like they're like the modern real life equivalent of Richmond FC or something like that.
That's essentially what it is.
Okay.
And we're going to talk to Bubba Cunningham. We're scheduled to talk to Ace to UNC AD and NCAA basketball committee chair.
Ooh.
Bubba Cunningham later this week. Does NC State Thursday? Does NC State and Carolina run the entirety of basketball and football now? Between Boo Corrigan and Bubba?
Yes.
Who knew that the center of the college world runs through the triangle, right? So you think there's a little tit for tat there? You know, UNC has a big season in football, so Boo's like.
Now, of course, we were pointing out this wine and cheese, but Bubba and Boo are legitimate friends.
Oh, of course.
Of course. Notre Dame, whole thing. Yeah.
So
this is not
right.
Yeah.
No, so it is a big week for soccer because Chelsea and Wrexham are doing this international tour.
Now, not to be completely ignorant on soccer. I know who Chelsea is.
Okay.
But I'm just being totally transparent and honest with you. I don't get the whole Wrexham thing. Like I get it. Oh, Deadpool owns them or whatever. Like, oh, okay. Cool.
So
like, am I watching Ryan Reynolds own the team from the sideline? Like, what is the appeal of that?
I guess there's a chance that you might see Ryan Reynolds in Chapel Hill.
Is he going to die in front of us and then come back to life? Like, I don't.
Is he getting?
I'm not trying to be a Ryan Reynolds hater.
Is he getting pegged? Is he getting pegged like he was in Deadpool?
This just feels to me like, okay. Cool.
Well, I think
Chelsea playing in Chapel Hill is cool. And they could be playing Carolina, and I think that would be cool.
But what Chelsea team are we going to see too?
No, you're not going to see their A-list team, and that's fine.
That's what these international soccer tours are kind of about.
They bring
they bring their B and their C teams.
They make money.
It gives you a chance, and that's what this is about. And that's why I'm curious to talk to Bubba Cunningham about it, because this is revenue for UNC.
Yeah,
this is all
going to sell out, right?
It's going to sell out if it's not already sold out. It's going to be a spectacle, which is the reason why if I was going to go, that's why I would go. I don't give a damn about either team. I would go just to see a spectacle.
And again,
there
pleading ignorance, is this going to be on TV?
Yeah, ESPN's going to broadcast.
Okay, now if they turn this into an infomercial for Carolina football, I would love it, because then would an NC State fan then be like, I can't believe this franchise doesn't care about the rest of the triangle? Which is the single dumbest complaint from the outdoor game.
Why isn't Ryan Reynolds wearing NC State stuff? This is upsetting to me.
The announcers, what?
I don't think a single NC State fan is going to care
Bubba
about that.
Doesn't already have some sort of Jordan theme kit for Ryan Reynolds, a Deadpool Jordan theme kit. I'm deeply disappointed.
I think what Wednesday is ultimately about is yet another opportunity for the state of North Carolina to show just how soccer mad it might be, or this area might be. I'm looking at this from Kenan specifically, using this as yet another revenue source. It's the same thing. We can make fun of David Tepper, the owner of the Carolina Panthers, for saying, oh, I brought live music to Charlotte.
Music,
I invented the concert. And Luke Combs has played 2 nights in Bank of America Stadium. Shout out to Darren Gant for getting the strategically placed Armonte Edwards photo jersey in that shot.
Shout out to Darren Gant for trying to get Luke Combs to actually like App State. Yeah.
True. Don't confuse Luke Combs with Eric Church.
No, sir.
Don't confuse
No,
the two.
sir.
Don't confuse the two.
They're
now.
both posers.
Yeah, they're
both
both
of them.
They're both UNC fans. I do wonder if Luke Combs is going to show up to the Wrexham Chelsea game. So anyway, back to what this is ultimately about. It's about revenue opportunities.
Yeah.
And
it was a smart move by Carolina.
It's an incredibly smart move. Luke DeCock wrote a column over the weekend about, this is an opportunity for the area to show how soccer crazy it is, how much more of these events can take place. He brought up the Chivas game that played at Carter Finley Stadium, like 11, 12 years ago. Remember what Swansea came through and played at Wake Med Soccer Park against, what is it? Oh, I forgot the other team that played there that some people are into. Regardless. So I don't view it as a soccer thing. I view this as schools continue to look for ways to generate revenue. And you've got 3 large football stadiums that can hold concerts. And the laws have changed with alcohol sales where you don't need special exemptions and you need to go and find the vendor and everything else to try to sell beer there as well. Chapel Hill
school's not in session. So that helps Chapel Hill with their parking, which is a real thing.
And
their parking situation is a real thing.
Unlike what's happening this weekend where they're literally laying turf, actual grass turf on top of the artificial turf. And that's something to low-key keep an eye on.
Yep.
Kenan is best positioned. Well, I hate artificial turf. And I thought Carolina's move to artificial turf was just a complete overreaction to rain and practice facilities and everything else. Well, I think Mac Brown said something along the lines of, well, we practice on artificial turf, so we might as well play on artificial turf. And if they're going to have the high school championships there, well, we might as well have turf too. If you're going to stick with the artificial turf, it makes it easier for you to bring concerts at Kenan than it is Carter Finley Stadium. Because there was Colin Madwell, I believe is his last name. He's a Canes guy. And he just kind of openly asked this question on social media. It's like, well, unless I'm missing something, why have there been more concerts at Carter Finley Stadium? And the first reason and the biggest reason was beer sales for the longest time. But the second reason, I think the last big show at Carter Finley Stadium was the Rolling Stones Zip Code Tour. Pretty sure that was the last big show at Carter Finley Stadium.
Okay. That was after U2?
That was after U2.
Okay. Because we had Beyonce, U2,
and then the Rolling Stones show.
Okay.
But
the Stones were at Carter Finley?
The Stones were at Carter Finley.
You're right. They were. Because they replaced the turf.
Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah.
That's part of the equation when somebody comes to Carter Finley Stadium. You have to pay for the turf to be resodded.
Yeah.
Which you don't have to do that at Kenan if it's artificial turf. You just put all the stuff down and then you fluff it up and you're good to go. Whereas at State, they're very serious about the grass at NC State. All right. So that's
they were at Carolina too.
They were. But so my point is that this is probably an opportunity to see how Kenan can handle big non-football events, and maybe we get more concerts that come through Kenan rather than big concerts coming through stadium tours coming through Bank of America Stadium.
I saw Bruce Springsteen at Kenan Stadium. It was amazing.
That was what, 03?
Mm-hmm.
I think it was.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was a great show. Unbelievable show.
That was a long time.
With Carolina, it's all infrastructure and parking. That's all this is about. To get into bigger events for them. They can't do stuff when classes are in session.
No, you can't do that.
That's why they forever didn't want Thursday night games. Because
they have an active working hospital.
It's a hospital. Yeah, I mean, this isn't like also. Yeah, it's not like it's an empty parking lot. It's a hospital.
Yeah,
on campus.
Yeah.
So I get it. And in confidence, Bubba's going to join us on Thursday, and he could say it himself. But he's told me before, like the one thing that State has that I would love to have is the Carter Finley setup with the parking and all the things that they have for that. He's like, it's amazing.
Here's another key part about the NC State Carter Finley thing. When NC State's running the parking, it's fine.
Yeah.
When NC State's not running the parking,
it's a problem.
It ends up being a problem. And look at Messi. Inter Miami going full Florida man. He went to Publix.
Did he get a pub sub?
Based on what I was able to see there, no. He was there with the wife and the kids.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that this was a setup. Again, internet fakery.
I would imagine everything he does is a setup. Yes.
It's all a setup. I do not believe that Messi just randomly showed up at a Fort Lauderdale Publix.
Is Publix one of the main sponsors for the soccer team?
Oh, how about that? You don't say.
Hey, man, you're going to need groceries wherever you live.
You're right.
Here, right?
No, you're absolutely right. if somebody wants to sponsor this podcast from a grocery store, we'll happily shop there all the time too.
We're moving on.
Speaking of sponsors, shout out to Hometown Realty. Check them out online at myhtr.com. Again, that's myhtr.com. This market is crazy, absolutely crazy. So you need somebody who understands the market and is going to put you best positioned to buy a house or maximize what you can in selling a house. Because I've been hearing about all sorts of cost of living. A mutual friend of ours texted me the other day saying, can you explain to me when Wake County apartment prices got to this level? I'm like, buddy, that's just where we're at right now. But Hometown Realty can help you out.
Yeah, residential, commercial, rental, you name it. Barry Woodard and his crew, they've got you covered. Raleigh, Garner, Clayton, Selma, Atlantic Beach. He's got more than 250 agents. That's amazing. Check them out, myhtr.com. They also have some amazing billboards on 70 when you drive that way.
Yes.
It's old school, man. Love it.
Yeah.
Give them a call, 919-550-7355, or check them out at myhtr.com.
Also, shout out to Whitaker and Hamer, attorneys and counselors at law. Check them out online at wh.lawyer. Again, that's wh.lawyer. They got locations throughout North Carolina. They got all the G's covered. And I don't know, if you got a grant of rights deal you need hammered out, they can put it on 3 pages and make sure you're locked tight, just like the ACC.
Yeah, Josh Whitaker, Joe Hammer, they have more than 20 years experience. They can help you close on a house, start a business, sell a business, anything that's family law related. Check them out. It's wh.lawyer.
Speaking of the grant of rights, the Big 12 had their media days this past week. I think the SEC media days are this week, and then we got the ACC football media days the following week. Now, every one of these media days has their own main topic, like what's the meta of these media days. And for the SEC, we know it's going to be conference games, the additions of Texas and Oklahoma, conference expansion. The Big 12 was also about conference expansion, but there's a little bit of beef between the SEC and the Big 12, and their commissioner went ahead and spoke to some of those issues over the week. And the context here is important. So you have Brett Yomark, who is the commissioner of the SEC. And actually, for reference, this was back in June. For reference,
Big 12, you mean?
What did I say?
SEC.
Sorry, Big 12 commissioner, my bad. Anyway, Brian Murphy, our friend, former colleague, pointed out that Greg Sankey, the SEC commissioner, had said, I've not been the one going to microphones saying that we're going to do this out west and we're not done. I've tried, and I've still tried to act responsibly given what I think are the ripple effects from messaging from conference commissioners. Okay. So here is Brett Yomark.
Act responsibly.
Here is Brett Yomark responding to Greg Sankey's comments, saying that, hey, look, I spoke to Greg. This is from 365 Sports on YouTube.
Get back to you what Greg Sankey said. He didn't mention you specifically, but talked about how there were people who were trying to be disruptive or raising their flag, and yet it's all like it is now because they stole 2 schools from your conference.
Well,
and because the Big Ten.
I'll address that. So I know exactly what you're talking about when it was, that get together in Washington, and Greg
summit
was interviewed, the summit. And I spoke to Greg after that. I called him up and I wanted to address those comments, and he said they were taken out of context. And we had a very healthy conversation, because I think, given how we are collegial amongst the A5, and we're obviously working on a lot of initiatives together, in those moments where you're not sure, you pick up the phone and you gain clarity. And Greg said that it was, taken out of context. Now, does he agree with my approach? Maybe not. But, every conference is in a different situation. And every conference requires different skill sets. And, I'm not going to apologize for anything I did or said. And I believe in that transparency. And I believe in being very intentional and not doing something at night or the shock and awe approach. And he and I had a great conversation, and we are very friendly. I like Greg a lot. He's been a sounding board for me amongst the A5 commissioners. Obviously, he's got a lot of institutional knowledge. But in those moments where you're not sure,
You pick up the phone.
You pick up the phone, and you don't let anything fester, and that's what I did.
And the only thing missing there from Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark was I looked him in the eye, and we had a conversation as men.
Yeah, it was the pandemic when John Swafford first told us, "Yeah, we talk every day," and then the next year we get we have an alliance. It's a bond. It can't be broken. We don't need a contract.
So to that end, as we just gave you 2 examples of conference commissioners,
that was Jim Phillips, the second one.
Yeah, not 2 instances of conference commissioners not following through on their word. Why would anybody take anything that Greg Sankey says at face value at this point? If you're a conference commissioner, this is the same conference that Trojan horsed the college football playoff expansion so that they could bring in Texas and Oklahoma. All right. You brought up the pandemic when everybody should have been on the same page. What did the SEC decide to do? Now, the ACC was right in that they hitched their wagon to the SEC about we're playing football games. But again, the SEC is going to do whatever the hell the SEC feels like doing.
Every conference is going to do what they believe is best for them.
Yes.
Because there's probably a Big East fan out there going, now, wait a second. The ACC is the one that originally rated the Big East. And they did. Mm-hmm. So every conference is going to make decisions based on what they believe is best for them. That's kind of sort of the problem with college sports is yes, the NCAA exists, but there's no central authority. There's no figure that looks out for, quote unquote, like we see in baseball, the best interests of the game. We don't have that in college sports. And that's a problem.
It is.
And Mike Krzyzewski's talked about this forever, how men's basketball, women's basketball, and football should all have their own commissioners. They should all have people who are looking out for what is in the best interest of those individual conferences. You mentioned this, that Disney is running out of money. Ultimately, what this is all about is TV rights.
Yes.
And who wants to pay for them. Okay. The Big Ten has figured out a way to piecemeal this from all different sources, not named ESPN. And then ESPN basically owns all of the other conferences. So it is in zero interest. Because I'm thinking of this. If you would have told me right now, I'll give you $1 million to name who the commissioner of the Big 12 is, I would have said Bob Bowlesby. Okay.
Yeah,
I don't know, or maybe even Chuck Ninus, but like,
Chuck Ninus.
Right? Like
going old school.
Yeah,
there.
I'm just saying, like, I don't know, So that's a problem for some. Maybe you say it's a Joe problem that I don't know who the commissioner of the Big 12 is.
I don't think it's a.
I literally didn't even know the Big 12 still existed. Okay, and they still have Oklahoma and Texas
for now,
but they exist. Did they re-up with ESPN? Not yet, or they have?
I think they have. It's weird. Like the Pac-12's TV deal. The Pac-12's TV deal has not come through. It's been
the
like
Pac-12 is probably going to end up on Apple or something crazy. They're going to do something stupid.
It probably will.
And I say stupid because when people can't find you regularly, it becomes an issue. You're asking your audience to find you, which is difficult. Okay. Big 12 to me is a conference that what people don't realize in the ACC is closer to the Big 12 than they are the other conferences.
Real quick. Big 12 did sign a $2.3 billion media rights deal with ESPN,
with ESPN.
Fox Sports and Fox Sports.
And Fox. Okay.
Back in October of 22.
So what's important for ESPN is they still need inventory. They're not, while they have an SEC network and will show replays of games and will show like SEC biographies, the live games are still the inventory that these channels need. So it is in ESPN's best interest to have a healthy Big 12. Because they've invested in it, not at the same level or years as the ACC, but it is in ESPN's best interest for the ACC to be healthy. So this is where people get confused. ESPN also now owns the SEC. They're not going to take Clemson and North Carolina out of the ACC, a conference that they owe money to, and it is in their best interest to, and move them to the SEC and be like, oh, okay, here you go, because we own this one too.
Well, let me ask you this.
The danger there is Fox, Big Ten, at CBS, NBC coming in and saying, hey, we really want Carolina. We really want Clemson. That's the danger.
That is a danger, and one that'll probably pop back up again when we get closer to 2030. And the ACC's ESPN deal starts to run out.
You and I are on the same page. 28 is when maybe you start some of those overtures.
Let me ask you this.
It's 23 as we speak.
What do you think is more valuable to ESPN right now? Changing the teams within a conference to create these kinds of matchups, or adding a 9th conference game in the SEC? What's more valuable to the SEC?
They screwed up. ESPN. When I say they screwed up. They didn't put it in their contract.
Didn't put it in the contract.
Yeah. ultimately they'll have to pay more for it.
Yes,
Because
and
the
that's
schools are going to draw a line in the sand and say, no,
well, they
we're
already
not.
have. No,
And
no,
they have,
they
but-
already have. Let's not mistake what the SEC was talking about this spring during their meetings when they decided to stay at 8 games. That 9th conference game is the last bargaining chip they have with ESPN to get more money out of them, and it's going to give them more money per year to add a 9th conference game and create more Texas, Alabama,
Right.
Oklahoma, Georgia matchups than it would to bring in Clemson or Florida State. That's where their value is. Greg Sankey seems set with the brands that they have right now. And they know by dangling that 9th conference game, that's where they get the money, which gets back to what you said in reference to ESPN and where they are as a company right now. And this is why I think major conference realignment is dead. It is dead right now because none of these networks have the money anymore. There's a big, huge reset of the table taking place in the industry. And Disney's feeling it to the point where Bob Iger, who came back to be the CEO of Disney, recently had like a 30-minute conversation with CNBC. And in that conversation, he basically put all of their television on the block to sell if need be. Like they were willing to part ways with ABC, even though I think that's a little bit too much of a stretch because they have relationships with the NBA, et cetera, right? But he openly talked about a partner, selling a stake of ESPN. That would be unheard of 10 years ago, where ESPN,
Hi, FanDuel.
which was that's exactly who it is. Not
Hi,
just
DraftKings.
it's not just FanDuel, it's also Fanatics. It's Fanatics,
Well, that guy.
right? That dude's got
What on earth?
tons of money.
You saw the birthday party, right?
Oh, yeah, it's crazy. So he could buy a stake in ESPN and sell all the merch and do the gambling stuff as well because Fanatics is getting into that market as well.
They're in the baseball card market.
Yeah, they are.
Or they're about
They
to.
They are. So somebody has to pay for it. And when you look at the industry right now, there's not a lot of
Somebody has
entities.
to pay for it, and you have a whole generation that says, I don't love paying for things, guys.
And you have another generation. You have another generation that's talking about how they're not all that interested in sports to
Yeah.
begin with.
Yeah, it's a double whammy.
So you got all sorts of outside factors pressuring these entities, and they're being much more judicious on how they're going to spend their money. And just bringing in Clemson, Florida State, or whoever is not going to
Right.
be incentive enough to rework that deal. And to your point about ESPN and the ACC, it's in their best interest to keep at a bargain deal that conference intact,
Yes.
which, as we talked about on Friday's overtime edition of the podcast, you know, the ACC will be fine in 2027 when ESPN becomes the primary partner and they're going to get a substantial financial bump that dies with the Raycom deal dying.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So when the Raycom
So
deal
at least
ends,
$3 million per school.
So, but my understanding is that, like most things ACC, it's been sandbagged, and there's a lot more money coming in terms of an average annual value coming to the ACC starting in 2027 through the end of the contract in 2035. But if you've been paying attention to what's going on at ESPN, if you've been paying attention to what's been going on at the SEC and how they've talked about conference games, it's fantasy talk. Most of college realignment stuff is fantasy talk anyway.
It's fan fiction.
It's fun stuff to do in the summertime. But
West Virginia guy.
of course, where's my guy Greg Swain these days, right? That's a callback. But for the most part, I am more and more convinced that major college realignment is dead at this point. And even when we get closer to 2035, we can't predict what the television landscape is going to look like. It might not be in Fox's best interest to blow everything up and come up with yet another bunch of money to bring in another school, because it's not just about feeding another mouth.
Yeah, you also don't know what's going to happen with football.
You don't. You really don't. Now, one other note about the Big 12 media days that I found amusing is that you had the deputy commissioner pop online and start talking.
Wait, there's a deputy?
This would be like
is this like the deputy governor or the lieutenant governor?
No.
Wait, what?
This would be like our friend, the former
Mike Kelly,
the former ACC commissioner of football. That's what this guy is.
All right.
He's like kind of like the Big 12's Michael Kelly, who's now the athletics director at South Florida.
I continue to maintain that the choice Texas made wasn't a financial one, because we all know what Texas resources are like. I think theirs was more about affiliating with a group of schools that on a given Saturday, they would rather get beat by Alabama than they would Kansas State or Florida than Iowa State. Or, that I think was really what was driving the way they looked out down the road.
So that is Big 12 Deputy Commissioner Tim Weiser. and I don't see where he said anything incorrect. That's from John Kurtz, by the way, who does at KC Sports Network. Kansas State guy. Find the lie?
Yeah, we've talked about how Texas has all the money in the world. That this wasn't, and so does Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
This wasn't about that.
Absolutely not.
What's up?
This was about Texas A&M.
Mm.
I think Oklahoma looked at the landscape and said, we've been to the playoff. We're so close, but the best way for us to remain an elite program is to be able to recruit.
Mm.
And if Texas had left them, and then Texas and Texas A&M, because remember, LSU and Alabama were the biggest winners in Texas A&M joining the SEC because it gave them more recruiting access to the state of Texas.
Yes, totally agree with that. Totally agree with that.
Housekeeping.
Man, I'm off my game today. Let's try this again.
What's up next? What's up next?
Do you?
Yeah.
Well, the housekeeping is specific for housekeeping.
Yeah,
We tell people what's
keeping your
going on.
house and getting ads is a thing.
You know what? That is a valid point. So
It's the way I see it.
shout out to Oakwood Pizza Box for sponsoring Hey Joe. Check them out online at oakwoodpizzabox.com. Or better yet, just drop on by, say hello to Anthony.
Wednesday through Sunday.
Wednesday through Sunday. Or you can buy a t-shirt like our guy Evan found at the Blink 182 show in Charlotte. Hey Joe, seeing a lot of good OG sponsorships at the Blink show in Charlotte, and there's a gentleman wearing an Oakwood Pizza Box. Also, these guys
Love it.
clearly from Raleigh because the dude that's standing next to him has an MLB Raleigh hat on, the little R right there. So yeah, glad that guy's rocking a Oakwood Pizza Box shirt. I like that. I got a sweater, although it doesn't fit me anymore. I put on too much stress weight.
Sweatshirt, not a sweater.
Oh, whatever. From our friend Josh Graham, you're going to the theater next weekend. Your options are Barbie and Oppenheimer. Which movie are you going to see? You see both, Josh. You go to Barbenheimer. That's the move. That's what everybody is doing. There are some folks that are sticking around the theater itself and going to see both movies. Some people are going to an IMAX show of Oppenheimer and then going to another theater to see Barbie. I guess the real question you should be asking yourself isn't which one are you going to see? No, you're going to see both of them. What you ask yourself is the question that our friend Aaron Beard wonders. You're going to see these double features. Which is the proper order to view both films on the same day? That
You got to go home happy.
That is the question.
So you got to end with Barbie.
Agree.
Yeah.
To me, this is a no-brainer. So went to go see Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1.
Part 1
this weekend with the kids. Good movie, by the way.
Cyborg Tom Cruise.
Dude, Tom Cruise, a little weird, whatever. But the guy knows how to make movies that are meant to be seen in the theater. I think that was kind of...
Oh, Top Gun.
Dude, Top Gun last summer. And then this, like, you got to see these movies in the theater. And I think maybe because I've watched some movies as of late that were way CGI heavy, it really does make you go, oh yeah, practical effects. It really does make a difference. Rather than this fake scene that's taking place. Not to say that they don't use CGI, but I'm with you. The proper way to see the Oppenheimer Barbie double feature is to see Oppenheimer first, find yourself completely depressed about a man who thought he was doing good only to regret his creation and what had wrought to this world. And then just cleansing your palate with Barbie, which I think also is a little existential though, because I think the premise of Barbie is that Barbie is living in the fantasy world and then exits the Barbie land into the real world and learns some valuable lessons. I believe that's the premise of this Barbie movie.
I know nothing about the Barbie movie.
So in the preview for Barbie, I'd have to pull it up. But in the preview for Barbie, the person playing Barbie goes, they're all dancing. They're all having a good time. They're living in their happy toy land. And all of a sudden she goes, did y'all ever think about death? I'm like, what is happening here? What?
Barbie being existential.
Very existential for Barbie. Toy Story already did this. Okay.
Yeah.
Toy Story already did this.
You probably already know that I'm not going to see either one of these movies. I just don't go to the movie theater.
I'll probably go see Oppenheimer in the theater in IMAX.
It just feels too intense.
Because Chris Nolan makes movies for IMAX.
He does. And that's fair. It just feels too intense.
I just hope it makes sense, unlike Tenet, which I still don't understand and never will. It looked cool, though. From Sam, speaking of Hey Joe, will you be at the Chelsea Wrexham game next week, if only to see the spectacle? No, will not be at the game. I slept on it, didn't get credentials, didn't get tickets. I'll watch it on TV, though, just to see what it looks like again. It should look cool. And then to our point earlier, there better be
Oh yeah, there better be some Jordan Jumpman swag and
Better be, man. Better be.
Deadpool style.
From our friend Connor O'Neill, who does it benefit the most that ACC Media Days are pushed back a week? Well, I think have they not tried to stagger these out? Used to be that they were going on at the same time, the SEC and the ACC.
Yeah, and again, these are now made for TV, so the SEC and ACC aren't going to be at the same time because they're owned by the same entity at this point.
Got to put it on TV. So I don't think it benefits anybody. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe it benefits Jim Phillips because it gets further and further away from the Northwestern stuff. Not that he's not going to get asked questions about that at the commissioner's forum, and I'm sure they've had time to prepare statements, but maybe that's what benefits. I have no idea. From Adam Rowe, hey, Joe, with the news of Apple and MLS signing a new TV deal, what tech company could the ACC sign with to bring in a new revenue stream, and why is it Twitch? It's neither. I actually don't think the tech companies are the ones you want to partner with in terms of revenue streams. I think we've all seen the vision. We all see where the future of sports is going, Joe, and it's about the ACC partnering with the Saudi investment fund. Am I wrong?
It's hard for me to think that they'd be interested in college sports, but it's such a foreign concept, literally.
It is.
Outside of this country.
It is. If the Saudi investment fund was going to invest in more U.S. sports, the next move is to buy a Lakers, a Yankees, that type of thing. Much like they're buying
I could see the NBA.
EPL. Oh, yeah. I don't think the NFL is going to...
This is America.
Right. I don't think they're going to do that.
You're underestimating their greed.
You know what? You're right. You're absolutely right. I should never second guess that. From Mr. Marshall on Twitter. Hey, Joe, I walked into a Buffalo Wild Wings last week. No judge, please. No judgment. It's all good. Who doesn't love wings? The plethora of screens were on old NFL games, a cornhole tournament, and motocross. Is this the worst sports time of the year? Parentheses. Yes.
I mean, I was gambling on WNBA totals and NBA Summer League. So but I also love golf.
Yeah.
Like this, see, to me, this is the time of the year. Like I'm obviously a little bit of a degenerate gambler, and golf is where people who bet on the NFL and college football, this is where they go to. They go to golf. So it's given me purpose.
I feel like more degenerate gambling takes place on NBA Summer League.
It depends on what your level is. But see, golf has the best odds.
Okay, that's fair.
So I think people who enjoy gambling enjoy a little bit of a payout too.
That's fair. That's fair. From Eric, hey, Joe, after doing this for a couple months, what has been the most difficult thing to do and what has been relatively easy for you? What things would you like to improve? I guess we can answer these in order. What's been the most difficult thing to do? New routine. I mean, I basically had the same routine for about 13 years.
Yeah, that didn't bother me. Most difficult. I mean, when you're not here and I have to do the technology
You're
part.
getting better at it, though.
Oh, it's so...
No, I mean, it can be. And I think that's the easiest part for me. Well, I still have...
For you, yeah.
Where I still have my moments of kind of fumbling around to pull up a tweet within StreamYard. But I actually joked about this on Twitter last week. If you were to give me a bunch of broadcast audio equipment, I could set it up blindfolded. Not a problem. Right. Not a problem. You start getting with video and lighting, like shout out to the E. Like he was here last week setting up these new LED lights, and we got more lights on the way to improve things. And I'm trying to get the right camera angle. He's messing with lights and temperature and all this other stuff. I am completely over my head. He's talking about rim. I'm like, are you salting the rim? Are you putting some tahini on it? Or is it that, Joe? I don't know. He's talking about adding depth and all these other things. For ACC kickoff, I'm dealing with the fact that there's only so much bandwidth that you can use, and I don't trust. I don't trust the hotel Ethernet cord. So I had.
But we do have an Ethernet cord.
No, we do, but I don't trust it to have the bandwidth to do that we do here in our studio space. So I had to download Streamlabs, which is a version of OBS Studio, which is an open source broad video editing, on the fly video editing. And I was messing around with that last week for a 3-camera setup. I think I have it figured out. So we should be good when we talk to guests at ACC Kickoff. That's probably the most difficult thing, is just trying to understand video, man. Video is a whole different beast. I'm learning. But yeah, it's its own thing. From Crazy Talker, will the Wolfpack be on permanent bubble watch during the Bubba Cunningham selection committee regime?
No, stop.
NC State is the reason why they're on permanent bubble watch. It has nothing to do with outside factors ever. It's always NC State because, as we know, Wolfpack ate for soft people. And we'll close on this from Daniel. Hey, Joe, does anyone actually like salad? Or do they just like salad dressing? I've never heard anyone compliment a salad without saying how good the dressing is. I'm a weirdo who likes salad. I like oil and vinegar. I love
oil and vinegar,
especially
from New Jersey.
Yeah, man. I do not like putting ranch. Like when I was a kid, yeah, dump ranch on it. Thousand Island. Hey, man, let's go. But I'm a big fan of Italian dressing. And then that moved to balsamic vinaigrette. And now if you just give me a little oil and vinegar, I'm good, man. Let the salad, the veggies, the croutons do all the work for you. I love a salad bar. Absolutely love a salad bar. So yes, I'm a weirdo who actually likes salad. Anyway, it's going to wrap it up for today's edition of OVIES and Giglio. Shout out to everybody who has rated us 5 stars, who's followed us on YouTube, who's left reviews on the podcast platforms. We appreciate all that. Please continue to do so. And we, in turn, will do some cool stuff for y'all. We got cups on the way. We got T-shirts on the way. I've actually submitted some designs from our friends at Breaking Tea.
T-shirts.
Very excited about some show T-shirts.
They're 5-star only, or what you got?
There's going to be a 5-star only in there.
Okay.
But not to give too much away.
Yeah.
If you've made it this far in the podcast, I guess you deserve a little peek as to what we're working on. So what are we, Joe? We're a defunct radio show.
Okay.
So I thought, how about we see if we can kind of tie into some defunct things here? So I have tasked our friends at Breaking Tea with kind of inspired by the Skyhawks. You know that Raleigh-Durham is perfect for OVIES Giglio?
Yeah, yeah.
So instead of Skyhawks, podcast. And underneath, OVIES Giglio. The only question is, in the little middle where it's little triangles, what do we put there? Do we put like notepads?
Mm-hmm.
Do we put a little phone, headphones, a microphone? I also thought that the Ice Caps logo was perfect for reinterpretation.
Yes.
Because it says Ice Caps, easy to say, OVIES Giglio, and the little hockey puck that says Raleigh, podcast. And then, yes, there is the 5 stars only, positive vibes only. So we'll see what we got cooked up. I'm looking forward to unveiling some T-shirt stuff here relatively soon. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up. We will see y'all on Wednesday.